Hare Krishna, Ruchi Mataji. How are you, Ruchi Mataji?
I'm fine, thanks for asking.
Exiting narrator.
Can you hear me?
How are you, Ruchi Mataji?
I said I'm fine, thanks for asking. Could you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
So today we are going to
I am
do
not fine. Things are not fine with me. What can anybody do? It's all every day. It's a new struggle, but we all have to. That's why we are alive to face the struggles, I guess. How are you doing?
I'm okay, Mataji. I'm okay.
कैन यू टेल मी ये आवाज इसमें बहुत कम आती है ये मेरा टैबलेट है ना इसमें आवाज बहुत कम आती है आई ट्राई टू डाउनलोड वॉल्यूम बूस्ट बट इट्स नॉट हेल्पिंग कैन यू टेल मी which software to use for increasing volume
I don't know about that, but if you have earphones, it might help.
no I get migraines if I put earplugs immediately I start getting migraine yeah I never put it let me try to see if it's the Bluetooth will work system. How did not get a Bluetooth device?
Mataji, so maybe we will start with the prayers.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to share the screen because today we are going to do a translations of Canto 4, Chapter 3.
Yeah, see, your voice is so low. If there's some way you can increase the volume on your end.
Exiting narrator. U. F14. Exiting narrator. Meeting. Exiting narrator.
Yeah, I don't know if this helps in any way, but we will start with
Maybe
the
let
prayer.
me try maybe on my laptop it will be better. I think yeah, that's what I should do. Connect on my laptop, then it will be better.
I'll start with the prayers. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamahyam Tatati Swasadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya eva cha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती
Hare Krishna, Manjari Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept our humble obeisance. We are doing the translations for Canto 4, Chapter 3. The chapter is entitled Talks Between Lord Shiva and Sati. So if any of you have the book, we can read 5.
I can read if you want.
Sure, Ruchi Mataji, please go ahead.
And I can also read after her. We can all take turns. Go ahead.
Text 1. Maitreya Uvacha Sada Vidishvatorevam Kalo
Mataji,
Ve.
you can read only the translations.
Okay. Maitreya continued. Oh, so we are reading only translations today?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. From the, I didn't know if I was reading from the book. Okay, text 1.
And also, Ruchi Mataji, there is an echo. So if you have two them set up next to you, then
Yeah,
you can turn on mute yourself on the phone or the laptop. It might.
hold on. I'll switch it off. The other one. Now I am not the is the other phone or the other one is switched off. So is that okay now? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, and it is much better. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Maitreya continued. In this manner, the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law Daksh and Lord Shiva continued for a considerably long period. Text 2. When Lord Brahma appointed Daksh the chief of all Prajapatis, the progenitors of population, Daksh became very much puffed up. Text 3. Daksh began a sacrifice named Vajapeya, and he became excessively confident of his support by Lord Brahma. He then performed another great sacrifice named Brihaspati Sava. Hold on, just a second. Okay. Text 4. While the sacrifice was being performed, many Brahma Rishis, great sages, ancestral demigods, and other demigods, their wives, all very nicely decorated with ornaments, attended from different parts of the universe. Text 5 to 7. The chaste lady Sati, the daughter of Daksh, heard the heavenly denizens flying in the sky conversing about the great sacrifice being performed by her father. When she saw that from all directions the beautiful wives of the heavenly denizens, their eyes very beautifully glittering, were near her residence and were going to the sacrifice dressed in fine clothing and ornamented with earrings and necklaces with lockets, she approached her husband, the master of the Bhutas, in great anxiety and spoke as follows.
Govardhan Leela Mataji, would you like to read?
Sure. 8. Sati said, "My dear Lord Shiva, your father-in-law, is now executing great sacrifices, and all the demigods, having been invited by him, are going there. If you desire, we may also go." 9. I think that all my sisters must have gone to this great sacrificial ceremony with their husbands just to see their relatives. I also desire to decorate myself with the ornaments given to me by my father and go there with you to participate in that assembly. 10. My sisters, my mother's sisters and their husbands and other affectionate relatives must be assembled there. So if I go, I shall be able to see them, and I shall be able to see the flapping flags and the performance of the sacrifice by the great sages. For these reasons, my dear husband, I am very much anxious to go. Should I continue?
Mataji, you can continue till 15.
Sure. 11. This manifested cosmos is a wonderful creation of the interaction of the three material modes, or the external energy of the Supreme Lord. This truth is fully known to you. Yet I am but a poor woman, and as you know, I am not conversant with the truth. Therefore, I wish to see my birthplace once more. 12. O never born, O blue-throated one, not only my relatives, but also other women dressed in nice clothes and decorated with ornaments are going there with their husbands and friends. Just see how their flocks of white airplanes have made the entire sky very beautiful. 13. O best of the demigods, how can the body of a daughter remain undisturbed when she hears that some festive event is taking place in her father's house? Even though you may be considering that I have not been invited, there is no harm if one goes to the house of one's friend, husband, spiritual master, or father without invitation. 14. O immortal Shiva, please be kind towards me and fulfill my desire. You have accepted me as half of your body. Therefore, please show kindness towards me and accept my request. 15. The great sage Maitreya said, Lord Shiva, the deliverer of the hill Kailasa, having thus been addressed by his dear wife, replied smilingly, although at the same time he remembered the malicious, heart-piercing speeches delivered by Daksha before the guardians of the universal affairs. Thank you.
Okay, 16. The great Lord replied, My dear beautiful wife, you have said that one may go to a friend's house without being invited. And this is true, provided such a friend does not find fault with the guest because of bodily identification and thereby become angry towards him. 17. Although the six qualities education, austerity, wealth, beauty, knowledge, and heritage are for the highly elevated, one who is proud of possessing them becomes blind and thus he loses his good sense and cannot appreciate the glories of great personalities. 18. One should not go to anyone's house, even on the consideration of being a relative or a friend, when the man is disturbed in his mind and looks upon the guest with raised eyebrows and angry eyes. Lord Shiva continued, if one is hurt by the arrows of an enemy, one is not as aggrieved as when cut by the unkind words of a relative. For such grief continues to rend one's heart day and night. 20. My dear white complexioned wife, it is clear that of the many daughters of Daksha, you are the pet. Yet, you will not be honored at his house because of your being my wife. Rather, you'll be sorry that you are connected with me. Ruchi Mataji, or I don't know who else. Manasi Ganga Mataji also joined. Manasi Ganga Mataji, would you be able to read?
Yes. Should I read 5?
Yes, 21 to 25.
Okay. 21. One who is conducted by false ego and thus always distressed, both mentally and sensually, cannot tolerate the opulence of self-realized persons. Being unable to rise to the standard of self-realization, he envies such persons as much as demons envy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 22. My dear young wife, certainly friends and relatives offer mutual greetings by standing up, welcoming one another, and offering obeisances. But those who are elevated to the transcendental platform, being intelligent, offer such respects to the supersoul who is sitting within the body, not to the person who identifies with the body. 23. I am always engaged in offering obeisances to Lord Vasudeva in pure Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is always pure consciousness, in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Vasudeva, is revealed without any covering. 24. Therefore, you should not see your father, although he is the giver of your body, because he and his followers are envious of me. Because of his envy, O most worshipful one, he has invited me with cruel words, although I am innocent. 25. In spite of this instruction, you decide to go, neglecting my words. The future will not be good for you. You are most respectable, and when you are insulted by your relative, this insult will immediately be equal to death.
I was going to say, Mataji's, if you feel like we could go into, I didn't put it on the schedule, but we could, probably try to read one text or so, one or two, if you want, Leela Manjari Mataji, and then, wherever we leave off, that's where I'll continue the schedule, if you want.
Yeah, it sounds good, Mataji, because we have a few minutes before we end. So
Yes.
maybe we can read like 3 texts.
Yeah, I think that would work.
Yeah, text 1, 2, and 3.
I can read
Ruchi
text
Mataji?
1. Yeah, I can read it.
Yeah, please read.
Okay, text 1. Maitreya uvacha sada vidishvadorevam kalo vedriyamana yoha jamatuha shashrosyapi samuhanit chakrame. Translation. Maitreya continued. In this manner, the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law Daksh and Lord Shiva continued for a considerably long period. Purport. The previous chapter has already explained that Vidur questioned the sage Maitreya as to the cause of the misunderstanding between Lord Shiva and Daksha. Another question is why the strife between Daksh and his son-in-law caused Sati to destroy her body. The chief reason for Sati's giving up her body was that her father Daksh began another sacrificial performance to which Lord Shiva was not invited at all. Generally, when any sacrifice is performed, although each and every sacrifice is intended to pacify the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, all the demigods, especially Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva and other principal demigods such as Indra and Chandra, are invited and they take part. It is said that unless all the demigods are present, no sacrifice is complete. But in the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksh began another yagna performance to which Lord Shiva was not invited. Daksh was the chief progenitor employed by Lord Brahma, and he was a son of Brahma, so he had a high position and was also very proud.
Uh,
Okay.
Govardhan Leela Mataji, would you like to read text 2?
Sure. Yada bishito dakshastu brahmana parameshtina prajapatinam sarvesham adipatyesmayo abhavat. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When Lord Brahma appointed Daksha the chief of all the Prajapatis, the progenitors of population, Daksha became very much puffed up. Purport. Although he was envious and was inimical towards Lord Shiva, Daksha was appointed the chief of all Prajapatis. That was the cause of his excessive pride. When a man becomes too proud of his material possessions, he can perform any disastrous act, and therefore Daksha acted out of false prestige. That is described in this chapter.
Mansinganga Mataji, would you like to read text 3? Thank you so much, Ruchi Mataji and Govardhan Leela Mataji, for reading.
Istva sa vajapayana Brahmistan Abipuyacha Brahaspati Savam Nama Samaripe Gratutamam. Translation. Daksha began a sacrifice named Vajapaya, and he became excessively confident of his support by Lord Brahma. He then performed another great sacrifice named Brahaspati Sava. Purport. In the Vedas, it is prescribed that before performing a Brahaspati Sava sacrifice, one should perform the sacrifice named Vajapaya. While performing these sacrifices, however, Daksha neglected great devotees like Lord Shiva. According to Vedic scriptures, the demigods are eligible to participate in yagnas and share the oblations, but Daksha wanted to avoid them. All sacrifices are intended to pacify Lord Vishnu, but Lord Vishnu includes all his devotees. Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the other demigods are all obedient servants of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, Lord Vishnu is never satisfied without them. But Daksha, being puffed up with his power, wanted to deprive Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva of participation in the sacrifice, understanding that if one satisfies Vishnu, it is not necessary to satisfy his followers. But that is not the process. Vishnu wants his followers to be satisfied first. Lord Krishna says, Mad Bhakta Puja Bhyatika. The worship of my devotees is better than worship of me. Similarly, in the Shiva Purana, it is stated that the best mode of worship is to offer oblations to Vishnu, but better than that is to worship the devotees of Krishna. Thus, Daksha's determination to neglect Lord Shiva in the sacrifices was not fitting.
Thank you so much, Manasi Ganga Mataji, for reading. So, yeah, the more we are reading, the more I feel like, that this is a very, very interesting section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, because how the false ego acts within a conditioned soul is very subtle, and it may not be easy for a conditioned soul to see what he is doing, because the mind and the false ego will justify everything that he's doing to be correct. But when we see that somebody else is doing something which is inappropriate, sometimes it is much easier to see that whatever they're doing is inappropriate. That's because we are distant from the situation, and we may have the intelligence to know what is proper and what is improper, and we may be able to discriminate, yet when it comes to us, then due to the false ego and misguided intelligence, we may not be able to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong. And in Daksha's case also, it seems that he was very, very qualified, and he was appointed as one of the progenitors by his father, Lord Brahma. So he became very, very much puffed up by his possessions, material possessions. Now, what would be the antidote for such pride, which can arise in somebody's heart, and when one becomes covered by illusion, and one thinks that that he is very important. The opposite of that would be an acceptance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the as the giver or bestower of all benedictions. And the second would be um, knowing one's own position as the servant of the Supreme Lord and trying to be of service to his devotees. But in the absence of these qualities, Daksha definitely was very bewildered. And we may be doing the same thing as Daksha in our own lives, neglecting people who have opposed us or irritated our false ego, but we may not be able to see it in our own life. The mind and intelligence will justify it. But Srimad Bhagavatam is so beautiful that it gives us an opportunity to um, rectify our own false ego and consciousness by giving us an opportunity to see these kind of faults in others through the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. And when we see these faults through the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is an impetus for us to see if we also have similar faults, if this is how we are also behaving with the devotees, and what we need to rectify in our own consciousness. And there is a big lesson in this, that the Supreme Lord actually will tolerate any kind of insult towards him. He may forgive any kind of insult towards himself, but he does not tolerate when a devotee, his very near devotee, who has served him closely, who is very dear to him, is insulted. The Supreme Lord will not tolerate it. So if we like here in the case of Daksha, he insulted Lord Shiva. And then in the following chapters, we will also see that his tendency to criticize and fault find and become envious of great personalities continues even into his next life. So it's not just this life, but he does the same thing in his next life, where he starts criticizing the devotees of the Lord. And due to that tendency, in this lifetime, actually, he gets cursed by Nandishwara, and he gets the head of a goat. And in the next life also, he suffers because of fault finding with, I believe, Narada Muni. So we can learn from the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam that one who offends the devotees of the Lord, which actually happens a lot in Kali Yuga, because in Kali Yuga, people do not have the same kind of patience, the amount of tolerance and good qualities to to in one sense, like, even tolerate the existence of people around them. So because of that, there is much more quarrel between people in the age of Kali. Quarrel and being unable to cooperate with each other, and becoming envious of each other. All this goes on a lot more because people in Kali Yuga do not have those same levels of patience and tolerance and love for each other. But this actually is a hindrance to the progress of one's bhakti. A devotee is always tolerant, a devotee is always forgiving, a devotee is always loving, and there is no other way around it. And if a devotee fails to cultivate these qualities, then he'll have to, there are consequences for offending the devotees of the Lord, because the Lord does not tolerate it. So one, it is, as Ruchi Mataji, she always points out, it's very nice to chant and hear, but the objective of chanting and hearing and performing sacrifices is to please the Lord. And the Lord is pleased when he sees our sincerity, and then he bestows us with qualities of a devotee. And the primary qualities of a devotee are compassion for other souls, and love for the parts and parcels of Krishna, along with Krishna. So, um, you know, through the story of Daksha, which will continue for a few more chapters in Srimad Bhagavatam, we can definitely learn that the Lord will not forgive a person who has offended his devotee. So we can humbly pray to the Lord, we can humbly pray to our spiritual masters, we can humbly pray to the holy name, that we may develop the qualities of a devotee of the Lord, and that we do not offend any Vaishnava, because this is very, very essential for making spiritual progress. So I would like to stop here, and if devotees would like to share.
Thank you for such a nice class. Yeah, this particular uh, uh, part of Srimad Bhagavatam where we are reading about Shiva and Sati is very like I like it a lot because I am a big devotee of Lord Shiva. So, but I had a question which was like sometimes we have conflicting let's say conflicting I can't find the right word for it, like faithfulness. What if the other word maybe uh, the American devotees can help, like conflicting faith faithfulness in a particular relationship. So it might have been wrong for like if we see from the perspective that she was a wife of Lord Shiva and so she went against his wishes, but if you see according to the perspective of being a daughter, then she would have committed wrong by not going, in the sense that the father who raised her from from a child who basically gave birth to her, then she would have thought that my father is going to ask me that okay, you are a child in front, like you are my child, and so let's say I did insult your husband, but you knew that I was doing this big yagna or sacrifice, and so you didn't need an invitation, because like it is said, the father doesn't need to invite a daughter. And so she would have felt that my father will feel hurt that I did not go because I gave more importance to my husband who came after my father gave birth to me, raised me up. And so like my husband is only like I'm just talking in the worldly sense. I do not know about the spiritual aspect, but like, so she would have said that, you know what, I also have a um like a duty towards my father, to like go when to my father, mother, and my sisters, uh, or my relatives who were with me all this time, who helped me raise me up, and now I am giving more importance to. And even though yes, my father will be offended. So many times in our lives we see that when we are actually supporting one person, we are actually going against the other person, and sometimes it becomes very difficult to decide that
which path should we follow, like which duty is more important, because we all have duties as a daughter, as a wife, or as a mother, or as a friend, or as a neighbor. And many times, let's say somebody has fought with the other person and they are like, okay, and they have become like big enemies, and they are like, okay, if you're going to support this person, you're actually going to go against me. And so it becomes kind of difficult. So thinking from the point of Sati, she was in a big dilemma, where she might be thinking that, which duty to me is more important, because my father is also going to be hurt if I don't go there. So just wanted some clarification on that.
Mataji's, any of you would like to share a response to Ruchi Mataji's
I
dilemma?
think that this is Govardhan Leela. Thank you very much, Ruchi Mataji. That it's very true that these things occur, and that it's been a very big thing in my own family, where um, uh, one family member will support the other one person, and then everybody, I have felt many times in my life that they would support the bully or the people who they just felt they should, side with, and I would feel very hurt and offended. And I've learned, now, I've confronted family members with this, and I've said, I don't expect anymore that you will ever side with me, because I know you never will. And so I've kind of given up these arguments. But yes, they occur very frequently. But in terms of, offending the father, I think, yes, he did bring her up, but at least I know in my culture, or, back in Europe, European culture, once you're given to your husband, it's like the father in the Christian tradition, you walk the daughter down the aisle to get married. The father walks his daughter down the aisle and gives his daughter to the the husband to be. So from that point forward, it is her duty to be with her husband and to follow his wishes. That's usually how it goes. Of course, the father probably feels hurt in many instances, but there are many families, at least the ones I've seen, that say, you know what? I've washed my hands now. You're married to this man. This is what, your allegiance should be with this man. So I'm not quite sure in Vedic culture if it's exactly that way, but
Yes, it's exactly like that. And even the
yes.
words that you used, I washed my hands off, it's true, because during the marriage, when they give away the girl to the husband, they actually wash, like pour water on the father's hand. It
Oh,
literally,
okay,
it is like that. They wash their hands off the daughters.
okay.
Yeah, all her, as you said, all her allegiance is to the husband after that.
But these days, people have like 5 marriages, but father will be only one. And when the daughter needs support, the only person she can run to is her father, because the husband or leaves the wife, like it happens many times. And then the only help a woman can get is from her father, who will never ever refuse to help her.
Well, that might be very true in Vedic culture, but at least, with all of the dysfunctional families that are out there in the Western world now, not just America, but in the West in general, not all fathers come forward. and they should. I mean, it is their duty. It's a lifetime duty, but many fathers don't come forward, unfortunately. That is the case also. They're done, and the daughter needs help. Well, sorry, honey, you're going to have to figure it out. Go back to him or go to work, or, I mean, there's some really crazy people, really cruel people out there today in Kali Yuga. So that's all I have to say.
Would anybody else like to comment?
So I understand what Ruchi Mataji was saying, though. I understand both perspectives. I've heard the saying also, I was your father before you married your husband. So that relationship is long, standing. And you hear that blood is thicker than water as well. So I guess when I had trouble with my husband, my father came, he realized that, and he actually came and lived with me so that he could help me raise my two kids. And so even in this Kali Yuga time, there are fathers that take that responsibility throughout life. I just wanted to respond to that. So even in this, in European or non-Vedic families, there is hopefully more than less, but there are families that do come to the help of daughters who may need help. And so I just wanted to also take it to the idea of, like, as devotees, how today during class, Gurudev was talking about kind of this topic as well, and how he was quoting, Prabhupada, like about cooperation, and he talked about unity in diversity. How ultimately we need to keep in mind when we have relationships with devotees is that there's one thing that binds us all together, and there's only one, actually, he said, only one perspective. And that perspective is we all need to be keeping in mind that we're trying to please Krishna. And so that's the unity, that's the thing, the unifying principle. And then the diversity has to do with, well, there's different people with different moods, etc. And so there are going to be differences, and there are going to be situations where people are going to be looking at others and pointing fingers, etc. But if we keep the unity, that one unifying principle in mind, about that we're trying to please Lord Shri Krishna, then the other, the problems should be shed. But like Leela Manjari said, we may need to pray to Krishna, we may need to pray to Guru, and reflecting. I think reflection is just an important skill that we all need to do. We all need to um, look within, because usually what we see without, on an externally, it's based on what's going on within as well. The lens that I see the world is actually um, what is happening within my own mind and within my own heart. And so when we see things in others, um, it tells me that it's time for me to start thinking about that same fault within myself as well. Um, and so what else did Gurudev say? Let's see if there was anything. So, another thing was a question was posed by a disciple. The question was, how do we deal with resentment in our heart? And Gurudev said, you can do one of three things. He said, so if you have resentment for another devotee, how do you deal with that? And he said, one of three things. You can forgive and forget. You can forgive and not forget. And you can approach the person and discuss the situation. So forgiving and forgetting, oh, that's nice, he said. And it might get you through. Forgiving and not forgetting, he said, by not forgetting, you're keeping like some kind of watchful eye on that person. But the best is to approach that person and discuss. He says communication is so very important, and to be able to go to that person and use discretion. He says truthful talk is highest principle, but you need to couple it with not only truthful talk, but you need to couple it with sweet talk as well. You need to use words that are truthful, but in a way that that person can understand and not be offensive. So, and then at that point you learn to forgive and forget. But he says that communication piece is a very important piece for us to all cooperate. So I just thought that Gurudev's class today had a lot to do with this as well. And that's pretty much what I have to say. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Manasi Ganga Mataji, for those wonderful points. Yeah, it's never easy. That's how much I can say.
Well, I had just a light question from all of you. How many of you would actually not go to your father's place if your husband was insulted? Just a light question, FIKI. I just want to know, just like that. Nothing serious,
If my father had insulted my husband, no, I would not go. I would not go.
Leela Manjari Mataji?
I think I would go, Mataji.
Okay, Mansi Ganga Mataji?
I think I would go with the intent to talk to my dad and not in a disrespectful way, in a very respectful way. Just, try to understand and have him understand, what he had done. I had a very loving father, so I think it all depends on maybe our own experience with our own fathers, whether or not we would approach our fathers. But yeah, I would be able to talk with my father and have a truthful, honest conversation about something I did or he did. Yeah.
Yeah. Rohini Mataji, is she on the call? Well, thank you. It was just a light FIKI. So yeah, I would also go. I mean, because I would just go because it's like, yeah, I would talk to him about it, because just like how one is expected to talk about everything, but as a father, I would respect his um, feelings and would go and try to talk to him about it. So I think what Sati did, she was in a big dilemma too, like all of us, and so she couldn't hurt her father. That's it. So yeah, just wanted to know. Thanks for all of your inputs, because I thought I'm really weird to be thinking that I would go in spite, of whatever. So just thinking, no, I'm maybe normal or whatever. So thanks. Okay.
I
Rohini,
think that
would you like
that perspective speaks of love too, because as if you love someone, you want them to be doing right, and you want them to improve themselves. So regardless of, him being a father, being at a higher status than a daughter, even after marriage and being an adult, I think that you know it would be out of love that I would be going to my father and talking to him, and you know and yeah, I wonder what the husband would be feeling at that point, if there was, you know but I think that it's just like Guru Dev said, it's all about communication. It's important.
I also think that I would speak to my father, but I would do it privately. I think that, in that scenario, it could become very heated and very unpleasant. So I would be speaking to my father on the side rather than put myself in the middle of that kind of situation. Um, it's something I've been learning, to be very, what's the word? Very tactful with family members. When I have to discuss something, I try to do it privately, because some people, now imagining that the father is very puffed up, he's in front of all of these people, and to discuss something like that in front of all these people might be embarrassing for him. So I would do it on the side. I would definitely, even though, like my father, he has a hard time communicating, but if I talked to him privately, I might be able to get through to him, I think. I always think that the dynamic is very different when you do something as a group. When you enter that situation, which this was a big event, you enter that situation in a crowd, it has a different dynamic than it would have if you talk to the person privately. I think that speaking privately for me would be the better option. That's all. Not to say I would never say anything.
Well, just a perspective, like how many times, like the father insults the daughter-in-law, and then she still has to put up with that, and the husband never would do that. That if the wife is insulted, he doesn't go to his father. No, it's unheard of. Literally, like ever in the history, it has never happened. That okay, my father insulted my wife, okay, then so what? It's like, okay, too bad, well, he insulted you, you gotta just suck it up because you're a woman. So, why is this thing that, because you're a woman, you have to be aware of your husband's insult. But if the husband would never ever do that, never, you cannot even think of it, because a husband's family always insults the wife or the daughter-in-law, and she's just supposed to suck it up. So just a perspective. So at one instance, if the daughter is feeling like, okay, after all, he's my
Mataji,
father.
just letting you know, we can get disconnected anytime. And if there is a minute or two, like I would like if Rohini Mataji would like to say something also. We have 4 minutes.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I will go to see my father. I love my father.
Thank you. Yeah.
Uh,
Rohini Mataji, would you like to say anything more about what we read today?
no, Mataji, thank you. I love hearing all of you saying good things.
Thank you, Rohini Mataji.
Thank you.
Yeah, we may get disconnected anytime, Ruchi Mataji, but I just want to say that I don't get insulted by my husband's family. They're very, very nice to me.
I also wanted to say that my son will approach me at any time if he thinks I have said something that was at all abrasive to his wife. So I think that all families are different. All families are different. Even though I don't mean to say anything abrasive, if it even hinted at that, my son will come to me and protect his wife. So, or fiance at this point. Yeah, so we're all different.
Okay, maybe we can end here and continue on Monday before we get disconnected abruptly in our conversation. Is that good?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Ruchi Mataji, for stirring up a very, very interesting conversation as always. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.